else.
I don't care what people say. Xbox is the game to play. Yeah!
Best
Xbox!
graphics.
Hoping to walk out with a cardboard box that says Xbox on it, go home and have a really good time.
What is going on, good people? I meant to make this video a couple of days ago, but unfortunately, as life has a way of doing so often, other obligations and distractions popped up that pulled me away. But now I have a little bit of free time, so here we go. What I wanted to talk about a couple of days ago was, at the time, it was November 15th, which marked the 24th anniversary of the release of the original Microsoft Xbox in North America. Now, back in the day, and it's so weird for me to say back in the day thinking about a time in which I was already an adult, but back in the day, I didn't have access to high-speed internet, and smartphones certainly weren't a thing, so at the time, I got the bulk of my gaming news either through television networks like G4 or, more commonly, in gaming magazines, physical, actual gaming magazines. And I remember reading that Microsoft were planning to hop into the console war at the time when it still was a war. And I was really skeptical. And I was skeptical in the way that I was skeptical the first time I ever laid eyes on a Sony PlayStation, which I had no idea even existed until I actually saw one at a kiosk in Walmart, and I saw that it was Sony branded. And at the time, you were either Team Nintendo or Team Sega, and I didn't know that there was really any room for a third option. So I thought the PlayStation seemed cool, but I was really dubious about its chances of success. And you would have thought that I would have learned from the way it caught on not to be so quick to make those snap judgments, but I'm ashamed to say I did have the same initial reaction to the Xbox. I'm like, well, we have three major players now. Microsoft, they're more known for Windows and Office productivity software. So I was really, really skeptical, even though I was intrigued. And I saw what the hardware offered that really set it apart from other consoles. It had the first to have an internal hard drive, the first to have an Ethernet port. It wasn't the first to have a phone port, because I believe the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2 also had options for connecting online, but it was the first console to have a designated Ethernet port to utilize high-speed internet. And I'm like, okay, well, this is really cool. Now, at the time, I had no concept. I don't think too many people could have at the time, outside of Redmond, Washington, that online gaming was going to become the cultural tour de force that it did become and still is to this day. But they went ahead and planned ahead for that by including that. So yeah, it was really cool. It was the most powerful hardware on the block at the time. It was more or less a PC. It was built like a PC. It was the first console to make it to where neither memory cards nor onboard batteries were necessary for game saves. Now, that's not to say that memory cards weren't available for Xbox. They were, but they weren't necessary. But I thought it sounded cool, but I thought that it was, just going to be kind of like the Atari Jaguar, really. It was going to be here one moment, and then it was going to be gone, and nobody was going to talk about it again. And I certainly at the time didn't plan on buying one, but that was until I visited a very dear friend of mine who had an Xbox. He's always been one of those early adopter sorts. And as soon as he turned that console on and that now iconic green, futuristic looking startup screen started, I was captivated. I mean, I was hooked. And I hadn't even seen a game running on it yet. I was hooked just based on that. And the first game that he fired up was Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball, which I will neither confirm nor deny owning a copy of to this day, or its sequel. But I was blown away by the graphics, which is, it's funny to think about now, because when you look at a lot of those older Xbox, PlayStation 2 era games, graphically, they don't all hold up super well, but at the time, it absolutely blew my mind. And if that had not convinced me that I wanted one, shortly thereafter, the local GameStop had an original Xbox kiosk in which you could play Halo Combat Evolved. And that was it for me. It was that moment that I knew my next console was going to be an Xbox. PlayStation 2 be damned. I was going to be hopping on the Xbox train. And at Christmas, I ended up getting one. And my first game was Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. And I picked up Halo shortly thereafter. And that was my first time feeling so utterly immersed in a gaming world. This was the first time, and there's arguments to be made for older games like some of the RPGs that were available on the 8 and 16-bit consoles, but it was the first time that I felt really truly immersed in a gaming world. I felt like I was transported somewhere else, to this magical land where I got to escape reality, and I got to crawl through dungeons and fight monsters and level up and craft armor, and just absolutely floored me. And it was at that point, I wouldn't say I became an Xbox fanboy, because I don't believe in fanboyism. I've decried it before. I think it's foolish. I'm very much of that mind that as long as you're enjoying your games, I don't really care what hardware you play on. But most of my friends had PlayStation 2s, and we would give each other little, gentle little ribbings and give each other a hard time about why I preferred Xbox over PlayStation. But it wasn't that I was dedicated to Xbox as a platform. It was just that it satisfied my gaming taste in a way that the competition just did not. And to this day, the Xbox controller is still a big reason. Wow, my light just went off. Give me just a moment. Technical difficulties, folks. But to this day, I've always preferred the Xbox controllers. I've always found them to be they sit in my hand the most comfortably, they're the most ergonomic, and I honestly do believe that the Xbox Series X controller is the finest controller that I've ever played with. That's the thing, Xbox controllers were great to start out with, and then they just got better as they went along. But I don't know why this damn light keeps going off. You know what? I'm not going to fool with it. The light's going to be what the light's going to be. Anyway. But yeah, I was very much a fan of Xbox. I wouldn't say a fanboy, but it took care of my gaming needs. It gave me experiences that I couldn't have elsewhere. And that is why I'm incredibly sad to see now that it seems like moving forward, more or less consoles in the future are on the path to just becoming different flavors of PCs. I mean, you look at the recently announced Steam machine and then compared that to the rumors we've heard about the next iteration of Xbox hardware. Both can run Windows. Now, granted, the Steam machine won't run it natively, but it can be installed. Both will run Steam. Both will have access to PC available PlayStation exclusives, formerly exclusives. And it's just like everything in terms of the experience that made Xbox is just kind of being outsourced. And I do believe the Xbox Series X will likely end up being the last Xbox hardware that I will own. I will own other gaming consoles in the future, but I don't know. I don't think any will ever replicate the feeling that I had when I first hooked up and began to play my original Xbox, and those first times playing through Halo, those first times playing through, the Elder Scrolls, which were only available on Xbox at the time. Just those experiences, they're not going to be unique to a piece of hardware anymore, and I find that sad. But being sad is neither here nor there. It's not the point of the video. I just wanted to wax nostalgic about the Xbox turning 24. And I hope, what I'd love to see? I know it sounds silly, but at some point I would like to see Microsoft make one of those mini retro console type things like the mini Nintendo, mini Super Nintendo, and maybe just like a mini Xbox. It's like loaded up with 20 or 30 of that console's greatest hits. That would be cool. I'd like to see something like that. Probably not going to happen, but I would like to see it. But anyway, folks, that's all I got for now. I just wanted to gush about the original Xbox and how much I loved it, and I can't believe it's the same age as my oldest child. I have to go to work now, unfortunately, so as always, y'all, pick your battles, because not every hill is worth dying on, and I will catch you on the next one.
We've been trying to contact you regarding your car's extended warranty.